Alright, what's going on, guys? Elden Ring Nightreign has officially released everywhere by now, and I gotta be honest, I am addicted to this game. The 45 minutes or so it takes to do a full run absolutely fly by every single time, and this is one of those games you could sink about 10 hours to, and it feels like you just got started. But by now I've killed a majority of the Night Lords, gotten all the way to each one at least once, and I gotta say Wilder is by far my favorite Nightfarer. It's not even close. We got this sentient pest run here that I'm going to be using the gameplay for this video. This was the smoothest, most picture-perfect run. And when the game feels like this, Elden Ring Nightreign is an absolute blast. But as you've seen by the title of this video, this game has a major problem. And if this is not fixed, this could be the biggest wasted potential Fromsoftware has ever done. And I'm going to break all of this down. But as we get started today, if you want to stay up to date on all things Elden Ring Nightreign, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and now let's get into it. To really get into what I'm talking about today, we need to go over some of the minor issues Elden Ring Nightreign has. Now, this game lives and dies off of being a roguelike, and the one element that makes it good is randomization. You don't want to know what's around the corner. You want to be surprised. You don't want to know what kind of loot you're going to get after beating a boss. You want to be surprised. That's not only what gives the game replayability, that's what makes it fun. And immediately, we have an issue here, because the game's world, Limveld, really doesn't change that much between runs. Now, yes, you have your shifting earth events, such as the volcano, but the problem is, that volcano is exactly the same every single time. Once you have your route down, you can go down there and get a legendary armament very easily. We get to the point where we can make that run in sub 10 minutes. Now, what compounds this issue is that not only does the game tell you ahead of time what world event is going to be going on when you matchmake, you can pick and choose them by using the bed in the round table hold. And I gotta be honest, this would work so much better if it was random every single time and you had no way of knowing until you actually land in Limveld and see it for yourself. And just a side note here, I don't know if this is true or not, somebody please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this screws up matchmaking because it works this way. I was messing around with the bed, trying to get rid of the shifting earth, but when it wasn't the volcano, I straight up could not find a match. And then once I passed time again to get the volcano, I found a match within seconds. Now that may be purely coincidence on my part, I have no idea. Like I said, somebody fact check me on that and let me know down below. But that's just one aspect of it. I wish we did not know what was going to happen in Limveld until we actually flew in. Now, the next bit about this I want to discuss is that I feel loot is too curated to the character you're playing. For example, if I'm playing Wilder, the vast majority of loot I find is going to be greatswords. I played a few Executor runs, the vast majority of my loot was katanas. If you're playing Iron Eye, you're going to get a lot more bows. You get the idea. Now, you're probably thinking, well, duh, that's exactly how it should work. But hear me out. The characters, while they have their preferred weaponry, are not limited to that weaponry. Each character has their own curated base stats and attribute scaling, but there's no improved stats for the specific weapon type unless you're running relics that do that. Wilder, for example, has the preferred weapon of greatswords, but he has a high scaling in strength. So if I want to use a great axe or a great hammer, I'm perfectly fine to do so, and I'm not going to have any drawbacks. However, if I build out my character with relics or upgrades found throughout the world to specialize in greatswords, it should be a bit more of a reward to get the exact weapon type you're looking for. Again, the fun of it lies in the randomness, and that should mean part of the time you're just going to have to make do with what you get. But when the loot is so weighted to give you exactly what you need, then well, it doesn't really matter what the weapon itself is, since everything you're going to get is pretty much optimal. And this creates a situation where you're not paying attention to the weapon, all you're paying attention to is the little green arrow telling you whether it does more damage or not. There should be runs where I don't get a great sword. That would create much more of a challenge, and it would make you think, if I can get just one, should I then go try to get smithing stones? Or should I just make do with this axe I found, since it's still technically a strength weapon, but it doesn't necessarily fit my build optimally? And this creates pressure, especially with the storm closing in, where you may have to be greedy, you may have to fight a boss that's on the edge of the circle, with that added pressure of having to kill it super quickly, just so you can get that loot pool, instead of simply for runes. Because as it stands right now, there's really not that sense of excitement in checking the loot pool because you already know that it's almost 90% chance that it's going to have a weapon that's good for you. And when they're all good, that makes the ones that are really good not nearly as exciting as they should be. And I feel like if you guys played the network test, this wasn't the case back then. I feel like it was much more randomized back in the network test. I remember during my runs back then, I would almost get that gambler's dopamine hit every single time we killed a boss. But now I find myself forgetting to even check the loot drops. because I've already got an optimal weapon. And I know weapons aren't the only thing that drop out of those, but that's just specifically what I'm talking about. Hopefully that makes sense, and I don't sound completely crazy. Now here's my biggest gripe with the game, and this is massive, this has to be changed, and this could literally be the difference between this game lasting a month and being replayed for years. The night bosses absolutely suck. I feel like when this game was announced, one of the promises that was made by the way they conveyed it through the trailer was the Dark Souls crossover. And I know I'm not alone in this, that's what we were excited for. When that first trailer dropped, all of the posts on social media were talking about, yo, imagine we're running through the field and then we get invaded by Artorias. Or if the pursuer is hunting us the whole time. That would be so crazy. That's not the game we got. I swear to you, out of around the 20 runs I've done so far, at least 12 of them have had tree sentinels as a night boss. For some reason, that fight is weighted so heavily compared to everything else. I don't know why. Tree sentinel should not be a night boss in the first place. I should not be fighting a Tibia Mariner on screen right now. And I know somebody's gonna say, well, just shut up and enjoy the game. I am enjoying the game, but every time I see something like this, all I can think about is what if I was fighting Calamite right now? What if I was fighting Smo and Ornstein, Fume Knight, Velstadt, Vort of the Boreal Valley, literally anything else. Now granted, I have gotten to fight the Duke's Dear Freya. The Smelter Demon fight was absolutely amazing. Why is that not happening more often? Now granted, I have not seen all of the returning Dark Souls bosses, but there are only 6 in total, and Bandai Namco chose to spoil all of them before the game even released. That is crazy to me. They tell us this exciting news that Dark Souls bosses are going to be returning in Nightreign, and then give us the worst ones. I know Nameless King's in the game, but come on. Why do we not have all the bosses? What is possibly the reasoning for that? I know they've had little tweaks to make them feel a bit more up to speed to the Elden Ring Nightreign combat, but modders are going to do this in a month. Maybe not even that. They will literally have every single Dark Souls boss in this game, maybe before we even get the second patch. And again, I'm loving the game. I'm having a blast with it. But this might just be the biggest wasted potential I've ever seen from Fromsoftware. Why even do the Dark Souls crossover if all you're going to do is just tease us with these little tiny bosses like Gaping Dragon, when we know what could be? I could be fighting Midir right now. I could be fighting Manus right now. I could be fighting Gale right now. But I'm not. I'm fighting a Tree Sentinel for the 5th run in a row. And it sucks because the Night Lord bosses are all so good. They're incredible boss fights. So we know the talent, ability, and possibilities of that original Nightreign pitch are there. Artorias? No bro, here's a demi-human queen. But anyway, that's where I'm going to end it because I don't want to sound like I'm whining. It just hurts so much to see what could have been. Again, I'm loving Nightreign, having an absolute blast with it. I'm addicted to it. I just had to get this off my chest. Now again, let me rephrase for people in the comments section, I love Nightreign. I'm having so much fun with it. If I had to judge the game based on the content alone and not discounting anything that's not in the game, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Like I said, what hurts is the potential of what it could have been. We already have DLC confirmed. If anyone at Fromsoftware hears this, please, in the DLC, go crazy with the Dark Souls bosses. Don't just add 1 or 2, add them all. It really doesn't even matter how well they're balanced, just put them in the game. If you're gonna make Tibia Mariner a night boss, then balancing really isn't a concern. Just give us that fan service. And make Pursuer an invader. How did we miss that? But anyways, what do you think about that? Do you agree or disagree with me? Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here. And I will catch you in the next one.